They didn't even want me around. They would ask, "Is Robert going to be there?" And if they knew I was going to be there, they weren't going to show up because they knew something was going to go down. Because that's all I did was I brought trouble with me. I took trouble with me, and I took it everywhere I went. I'm surprised I didn't name myself Trouble. But I just want to let you guys know that that it's a lifestyle that I lived, it's a lifestyle that I pursued, and it got me nowhere. But little did I know that it was going to become my testimony. Little did I know that God was preparing me for this time as now. That all the stories, all the things that I went through. I've been stabbed, I've been shot, I've been left for dead. I got a scar that goes across my head. I'm missing a finger. I got a slice up my stomach. I got stab marks right here. I can't lift this arm up. I'm missing teeth. My foot is messed up. There's a lot of things just from the streets that brought this lifestyle to me. So it comes with a price. For those of you that think that you're all cool and you're all bad and you want to be the gangster, you don't know a gangster until you've lived with one, until you become really one that really lived it. You know what I mean? It's like just because you get a couple of tattoos and you put your hat sideways and now you be sagging your pants, you think you're all gangster, but you ain't lived it. You don't know yet until you walk in the shoes of a real gangster. But you know what? It's not about that. It's about who we are now. You know what I mean? And for me, it's a lifestyle that brought me a lot of anguish, a lot of heartache, a lot of hurt to my family, to my kids. All these years of my life, 45 years of my life, it took away from my family. It took away from my kids. When I got out of prison this last time after doing 12 years, I was looking at 56 to life. I had to fight 2 murders. And then I fought 2 attempted murders. I got found guilty. So, the thing was the day that when I came back from court, I had to call my kids to give them the good news and the bad news. The good news was that I didn't get 56 to life. The bad news was that I still had to do 14 years. So that broke their hearts. I remember that phone call, when I was in Wayside. I remember them screaming and crying and yelling because, I was really close to my kids. Regardless of the lifestyle that I lived, I found time for them. But you know what? It's just the way it was, just the way things. Little did I know that God had a plan, that He was starting to shape me and He was starting to mold me. But He had to break me first. He had to take me away from the things that I knew, the things that I loved. And it wasn't about what I was, it's who He is. And so now I have to do this time. So I started off and I ended up in maximum security and a level 4 and a 180, the SHU program, I had to go through all the riots and I had to go to all the mayhem and all that stuff, and throughout the years, I came down and I started growing and I started learning and I started opening my eyes. I started focusing on what it was that I needed to do, to change my life and to break the cycle of who I was and what I was living like, and so I had to get a hold of God, but it wasn't a thing where I was fully committed, but I just knew that I had to reach out to God because that's all that I had left. I had nothing else in my life left. Everybody had left me, abandoned me, and I was so used to it. So, I could care less, what happened to my life, you know what I mean? I didn't care whether I lived or died. It didn't matter to me, We would have shootouts and I would run into the shootings. I wouldn't hide. I would just run into because I didn't care. I wanted to die. But you know what? God says, no, I want you to live because I got a plan for you. I got destination for you. I got destiny, and little did I know, that God was going to bring me to a place where when I got out of prison, my sister took me in because nobody would take me in after doing 12 years because of my past. I had too much violence. But now it's like, one day I was like leaving Long Beach. I was staying with my cousin. I was going to hit the streets. I had my bags. I was going to head back to the neighborhood. I was going to get back into what I was going to do, and I was either going to overdose. I was either going to end up in prison again doing life, or I was just going to end up dead somewhere out there. Who cares? What I didn't. You know what I mean? But God did. He pulled me into a place where, He opened my eyes one day. And my sister let me into her home, and when they would go to sleep at night, I would sneak out the back, and I would catch the train, and I would still get loaded. And this was after 12 years of parole, 12 years of doing time, and here I was still, fresh out of the pen. And here I go, I want to hit the streets again. But one day I got home. When they would go to work, I would come home, and I would sleep it off. And one morning I woke up and I remember that on my left side of my corner, I remember there was a big light. There was a big presence in there, and I knew it was God. I just knew it, It startled me, you know. And it was like God was telling me, he goes, look what you're doing. He goes, you're creating a bigger web, and this one is stronger, and you're not going to be able to get out of this one. You're going to end up dead, and you're going to end up either doing life in prison. And it was so surreal to me, and I remember I caught it, you know. So I remember I got up, I showered, and I got myself together, I rested. And when my brother and my sister came home, I told them, I go, remember that time you offered me to go to church? And they said, yeah. And I said, well, I'm ready. I go, can I go and check? Because they invited me, and I told them I wasn't ready. I told them, I'm good, man. I ain't doing this church thing, you know. I mean, I'm all right. And I remember telling them, I'm ready now, you know. And I remember the first day I walked into Praise Chapel Whittier, you know, that's when I felt like I belonged at home. I knew this is where I belong, you know, and that's when God started to mold me and shape me. But I still had that level 4 mentality. I was real quiet. I was just, you know, skeptical about everything and everyone. You know, I didn't trust nobody. You know, I thought they were all to get me. It was a setup, you know, and nothing comes easy for me. You know what I mean? And nothing comes easy in life. When it seems too easy, something's wrong. It's a setup. So I won't fall for the okie doke, which I did with the devil. You know, I fell for the okie doke, you know, and look at where it got me, you know, stabbed up, shot up, beat up, left for dead, you know, many times, you know, my family, you know, I lost 2 marriages, you know, kids, you know, that are out there. But let me tell you right now that, you know, that God transformed me. I started going to church, and I started going to Bible study, and you know, eventually I started, you know, preaching and teaching Bible studies and counseling, and moved up on the ladders of the ranks in church, you know what I mean? And eventually the time came where God brought a woman into my life, you know, and her name is Teresa Lopez, my wife, you know, who I love and cherish very much with all my heart and soul, you know. And God brought her into my life, you know, and so we started dating. We got married, and eventually, you know, I left Praise Chapel, but under good terms. You know, I got prayed out, you know, with the blessings of my pastor, because, you know, God knows I've been faithful all the way up, you know, prayers on Saturdays, you know, Bible studies, outreaches, you know, preaching and teaching Sundays every day, you know, usher, leaders, you know, prayer altar prayer, you know. And eventually I left, and I am now currently in Victory Outreach in Eagle Rock, where I am under Pastor Augie Barajas, and eventually I moved up over there now. You know, I'm in the hospital ministry now. I'm a minister of the hospital ministry. I go to hospitals. You know, I go to ICUs. I go to intensive cares. You know, I go to homes. I pray for homes. I pray for people. I counsel. Who would think, you know, that I would be doing these things? You know what I mean? When I should be dead. I should be 6 feet under, or in a mental institution, you know, or locked up. But you know what? God has set me free. You know.